There he is.
Hi, guys.
Morning, Mike.
Hello, Kozak. You're a Winnipeg boy, eh?
That's right. That's right, Wally. Yeah, where are you? You're in Calgary?
I'm in Calgary, but being from Winnipeg, I don't know. My brother taught school at Isaac Newton. He's passed away. And my other brother, my brother is a retired radio announcer. His name was Boyd Kozak.
Yeah.
He broadcast at CKRC there. And I played for the national team for Father Bauer there back in the day. So
no kidding.
Where did you play in Winnipeg?
Yeah, so I'm from actually St. Adolphe. It's a little town south of Winnipeg. So I played there, and then Eastman Selects later on at the U16, U14 level. And then a short stint in Selkirk in the MJ, and then Weyburn, Saskatchewan for a couple before coming to college.
Who did you play for in Weyburn?
Who do you think?
Choop?
No. It was Bruce Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah. Then he went to the University of Regina after that. Yeah. But Dwight was always around. I don't know if you know Dwight McMillan. He's a legend there.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for coming in late, guys. I was hoping to just we're off to a little bit of a slow start here, and sometimes it's good just to hear other guys talk about hockey and get out of my own head for a little bit.
So, Mike, how long you been coaching Colgate?
This is I was an assistant coach for 5 years, and then I left for a few years, and I came back. It's my second year as the head coach.
Yeah. And before that, you were at Devon?
Sorry?
Where were you before that? Your coaching?
Before my assistant coaching stint, I was playing. So I played in the American League for 5 or 6 years, and then in Europe for about 10 years.
Where'd you play in Europe?
Pick a country.
I don't know if you know Tom Malloy or not, but he's spent more time in Europe working with coaches that have sort of written the book about hockey in different countries, Yursanov and other great coaches. So,
yeah.
Tom, I wonder if you could introduce yourself to the Canadian coaching in the States right now and give them a bit of your background, what you're doing now. You'll be amazed how it comes full circle. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I'm from Calgary. I played at Bemidji, and then I've coached University of Calgary, SAIT, and Mount Royal. That's the 3 institutions in Calgary. And I also went to Salzburg and was assistant there with Paget with the Red Bulls. And I worked a lot in Finland with a fellow named Johanni Walston. And we wrote the program for Austria together. And, that led to doing different camps in Norway and Czech Republic and all kinds of places like this. So anyways, I've been around a long time. Right now I'm coaching Bantam girls. Did you ever run into Gene Riley in your trips?
I haven't. If you're talking to me, I have not. No, I don't know Gene.
Yeah. Well, he did a lot of NCAA coaching. Peter knows him, I think. He's from Boston.
Yeah, we're a different generation, I think. But nonetheless, it's good to have you on because
thanks, Wally.
Tom is Tom, you just turned what, 77?
Yeah.
And he plays hockey 3 times a week.
Not very well anymore, but I play.
He waddles around out there, but he's really committed to the game and giving back. And he actually was ahead of his time back in the day because the coaches he was working with, Europe, were ahead of us, as you discovered when you went over there.
Yeah.
And he knew what was going on and bought into it. But Canada, of course, was sort of closed door, and we knew it all.
Right.
So Tom's work now, I think, is much more appreciated by those that are involved in the elite game. I don't think we played very good hockey growing up. It was rock'em sock'em, north south, and the game has changed so much. Now I'm a little
Wally. I was just going to ask Wally, if I can, Wally and Tom, do you think Canada's still closed off? Do you think we still think we know better, or are we starting to evolve?
I think it's really opened up. I've been watching, like in Calgary here, I watch a lot of practices, and they're so much better than they used to be. Like
The
I've been
Flames,
watching
you
the
mean?
Flames,
Yeah.
the Flames and the American League team, the Wranglers. And then I was watching Vancouver Giants the other day. Winsport has all these rinks, and they're practicing the same time. But the practices are so much better because like our practices used to be horrendous. You know, even in the 90s, I was helping a couple of guys that went on to the NHL, and our practices were not very good.
How do you mean specifically, Tom? Like, what's an example of how much better they are now?
Well, I remember a good example as I was helping, and I was teaching school, so I'd rush to the University of Calgary practices right after school with no prep or anything, you know, and throw my skates on and jump on the ice. So I asked our therapist was doing his master's, and he was putting heart things on guys and videoing them. And I said, Jeff, do you mind if I get the video, because some of these drill, you know, some of the things just so I understand exactly what we're doing. He says, sure. So I watched one of a defenseman, and we had, of course, university, you got 8 or 9 defensemen, right? Watching what he did during the practice, and he'd stand there listening to the drill. Then, you know, 2-on-1 or something like that, he'd get maybe 2 reps in 10 minutes or whatever. Then they'd all stand there listening to the next drill. And I thought, well, it's good that we do some bag skating, because the guy never skated all practice. You know, there was no game situation. You know, it was a lot of walkthroughs and really simplistic drills. In fact, Gary Roberts practiced with us while he was coming back from an injury. And after one practice, he said, Tom, you got to do something about these practices, because he was getting nothing out of them.
Right.
So now, you know, there's a lot of movement, a lot of good stuff. And I do little video clips. I go and I take about 2 minutes of video, because I can never remember what they're doing. And then I write them up after.
Right.
And I've been doing that. And yeah, there's just so much more happening out there. And there's a way better work rest ratio. And
where can I find those video clips, Tom?
Well, if I get your email thing, I can send you links, because I've got like 1,500. I finished in the spring. I watched all the Canada teams during COVID. They had to get ready in the summer, because they made up for the World Championships.
Yeah.
So the U18, U20, the women, and the women U18, they're all practicing this wind sport. And I got like 130 clips of their things and wrote them up to PDFs.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then this Wrangler stuff, and I've been doing it for a long time. So,
Tom, Tom plans practice, and he has a drill bank. And if you type in ABC coaching and subscribe to his site, you can access at least 1 million drills. But Tom, would you add Dan to your list, so when you send out today's practice plan, you can see the description, diagram, and also click on a link to view the drill, probably done by the Flames or the national women's team or something. And he does this with every practice with his U13 team, and he's been doing it for years.
U15.
Yeah, U15 team this year. And the other years, U18, whatever. his use of video and the way, if you want to get some drills that are going to help you immediately, that's probably the best thing is looking at his practice plans.
Great.
Because the detail of the description, along with the video, it's pretty hard to duplicate that kind of communication. It's really precious. I'll also add you to the Shark Skype list. I have about 90 coaches on it. When we're done this call and I'm recording, I usually edit it with titles and segments of 5 to 30 minutes, just for the sake, and I dedicate it to the good of the game, so that anybody who's out there might make use of the conversation or the material that we share. So, knowing that you're on, I mentioned to Peter, if we got you on, I'd make you a guest. So that's why I'm asking you a question, but it's good that you're asking questions because we'd sure like you to, benefit from some of the stuff that we're doing. Although Peter, myself, and Tom, we're focusing at mentoring now coaches at younger age levels and just trying to create a perspective in the game that's missing at the youth level growing up, because eventually those entitled athletes come to you and you have to deal with behaviors that are a lot more difficult than they should be. So the sport can develop great people if you do it the right way. And that's sort of the philosophy of the Sharks, lifelong learning and dedicated to the good of the game. So,
Wally, just for a sec, I think, pretty sure Mike Shumi's son went to Colgate.
Evan. Yeah.
Yeah, Evan. Mike was
Mike
my
from
assistant
Switzerland?
coach at college a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I recruited his kid and coached him for 3 years here.
Yeah. I play hockey with Mike on Friday at noon, but he coached with me 3 years at State.
Tell Mike I say hello.
Okay, I will. Yeah. Evan was helping. I don't know if he's helping with the Bantam AAA or not. He was last year.
Yeah, he's a great kid. Yeah.
You still keep in touch with him, Dan?
Me with Evan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him. Well, this will be a good excuse to talk to him, though. This is great.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm curious. How did you and Peter get to connect and know each other?
Pete, you want to answer that?
Well, the first time I met Mike, there was a rink in Cromwell, Connecticut, and Mike was playing. You might have been playing. I think you had injured your knee, and did you play? Played in Chicago, maybe?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Okay. And Mike was looking for a place to rehab, and because he played in Hartford, I guess he knew about the rink in Cromwell, and he knew the owner. So he spoke to him, I think, about like what was going on there. And at that time, I was coaching at one of the local universities, and Mike just came out and introduced himself and said, "Sure, come on out." And he began skating with us at practices, and that's kind of where it all started. And that was, gosh, probably solid 20 plus years ago, I think.
And Tom, he was running great practices too. Lots of games, lots of compete. It was really fun.
Yeah, I would imagine he would.
Yeah, he was.
Well, he shared a drill with us last week, and that's one of the things I was going to bring up here. And I'll begin with you, Dan. Every coach sort of has a favorite drill. I don't coach teams anymore, but I do a drill sequence every 2 weeks with the U13 coaches and teams on separate days. 15 to 20 minutes. So my favorite one is a teaching one. It's a 3-stage one created by Johanny Walston 40 years ago. And that's sort of what I'm doing this week. Tonight, I'll be doing it with 2 of the teams on the ice for the coaches so they can deliver the drill. What I find that coaches, they just look for drills. They don't accomplish the purpose of the drill. They don't intervene. They don't dummy it down, regress it, progress it, and maybe stop and work on the tactical skill within the drill. And that's why I'm working with U13s and trying to
That's great.
give those drills.
So what's your drill today?
Well, there's 3 drills. It's the first one's 6 players on each circle, stationary, passing 1 puck, then 2, then 3.
Yeah.
And of course, 2 pucks go to 1 because they don't hang on to it and make eye contact. And that's
right.
The first rule. The receiver's the timer, eye contact's critical. The next sequence is give and go with the coach in the corner who will return a pass to you.
Yeah.
And he'll keep his head down or turn his back, and you have to save ice up high before going in for a pass. And then we put a player replaces the coach playing the same role. They have to connect with timing. And eventually we have players in each corner, and they might go player to player behind the goal line, while the third player up top saves ice with eye contact, receives it. The last one is it's a whole ice sequence of a breakout pass with timing and a stretch pass with timing, followed up with shots in the opposite end with timing. So that's just generally a general thing. I wanted to ask you, Mike, what's your, do you have a drill that you do it quite regularly that gets you going or that you feel pays off?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, it depends the day of the week probably, and it depends what we're missing out on. Lately, we've been doing a lot of 3-on-2 low into quick 3-on-2 low quick play. Lots of rimming, like the coach would rim it off the boards to the guy below the goal line to start that 3-on-2.
Yeah.
And you're talking spacing. We like to use, playing inside the dots, but so the skill is picking it up off the rim, which happens a lot at our level. There's a lot of pucks off the dasher. So they play a quick 3-on-2, and then on the whistle.
Are you talking offensive rims?
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly right. So it's a quick 3-on-2. Then we have 3 guys sort of the tops of the circles moving the puck around. And then on the whistle, they attack 3-on-2, and the guys that were 3-on-2 down low, they back check back. So it's a tracking drill and having our D jump up. We've really been emphasizing the new 3-on-2 as a 4-on-3. So we have D that can skate really well. So trying to get our 4th player to beat their 4th player up the ice. We've been doing a lot of that, and that's been really good for us, actually.
Yeah.
So a lot of like drills like that we've been really working on. We'll start every practice with a puck possession game. We're doing a football game today where through the neutral zone, it's 3-on-3 in the neutral zone, but we shorten it. So we draw on the ice. So it's a rectangle almost. The guys have to play inside that rectangle. It's 3-on-3, and you try to cross the other team's end zone and just pass your way through it. So we have about 7 or 8 puck possession games. We change every start of the practice, and those work really well for us. We get to be a really good puck possession team by Christmas.
I wonder, Tom, are you still on?
Yep.
Tom, back in the day, in his book ABCs of Hockey, he came up with a very simple thing. Let the game teach.
Yeah.
In other words, it's one thing to have the skills and the tactical skills, and another thing to have your head up and people to support the play and be available with and without the puck.
Yeah, we find
I wonder if you can talk about that, because he transition is the game within the game. In my thinking, it's what you're doing involves transition, and there's a vacuum, a mental vacuum when the puck turns over defensively that you can take advantage of. But Tom is the expert, and his one of his players is Brad Pascal is the assistant GM of the Flames, is a daughter on the team. So Tom gets to sit in the Flames box, I think, and watch practices, and
that's nice.
Video them. He gets copies of their practice plans, and he's really accessing this information. But Tom, you heard what he said relative to the drill he was describing, and sounds like you're doing quite a bit of the same thing with U15.
Yeah, we use, and the person that came up with most of the ideas I used is Johanny. He was, he's in the IHF Hall of Fame. And in the book there, he outlines all kinds of different rules, modified rules for playing. And one of the things I see the kids, especially in the kids hockey, say I coached a lot of women's college too, is it's 1-on-5 hockey. So how do you get them to, support the puck and then to look around? So one of the games we start with is full ice, and there has to be at least one pass in each zone. And I have a duck call. I blow if they don't do it, the other team gets it. And, we start with that, and we'll go to a 2-second game. They only get 2 seconds to move it, and play all kinds of things where they have to support the puck, or maybe you have a game that goals have to come on give and goes, or, all sort of whatever you want to teach in the game, you put it into a rule. One of my favorite ones that I use in just a game at each end, maybe we'll have 5-on-5 at one end, 4-on-4 on the other end, and play 2-pass. Are you familiar with 2-pass?
Maybe. Go on.
You have to make 2 passes before you can score, but everybody has to stay inside the blue line. So when you get the puck, you have to make 2 passes before you can score, and or the other team gets it. And I use that as a template for a lot of things. Like I find that a lot of players, if they're going to pass, they stand still, and if they're going to skate with it, they skate.
Right.
So we want them to skate and pass. So one of the rules I'll have is you have to make an escape move when you get the puck before you can pass or shoot.
Yeah.
And or you can have them, plays have to originate below the goal line, or
Right.
goals have to be on one-timers. Whatever you want to work on, you can put as a rule. And I learned that game. Danny Heatley used to be my neighbor, so he did stuff. I did stuff with him since he was a little kid.
Yeah.
And he was getting ready to go to the World Championships. And we were at a rink, and there's a goalie, and him and this Jamie Heward. I don't know if you ever ran into them. My son and I played with them 2-on-2, and we played that game for about an hour, and that's where I learned.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, you were talking about low zone offense, 3-on-2, stopping the rim. Like right now in girls hockey here, the only offense is direct attack. There is no delays. There isn't any offensive zone play in terms of cycling or scissoring or picking or getting a puck below the goal line to somebody open and doing, what you're doing. But I watched Tom's U15 team play last Sunday. In the first period, I thought they were a pro team. And in relation to the 3-on-2 game you played, they did something tactically, Tom. One of your players, they were doing a quick cycle, give and go. In other words, she popped it back and went right to the net and got the puck back. Didn't score, but it's something I've always said, boy, if I'm going to practice a tactical attack skill, that's it. It's not just a direct give and go where it's obvious. It's a cycle give and go. And when 14-year-old girls or 13-year-old girls did it. It was pretty amazing. And one of the things Tom's done is track completed passes. And at U13, the goal, he achieved 50 consecutive a game or 50 passes a game. And the average completed passes playing in the boys division with his elite U13s, the average number for boys was 10.
Wow.
And Tom's, of course, his goal this year, I think, Tom, you're up to close to 100 a game now, right?
Well, last game we got 111. The goal is
No
to try to
kidding.
make 35. They're just completed passes, right?
Yeah.
And
What did you discover about the Flames stat, the NHL completed pass stat?
I got season tickets anyway. So one game last year, I decided to count the Flames passes. Every period was between 90 and 100. As soon as someone's open, they get the puck, right?
Right.
And they never miss a pass, NHLers. That's the amazing thing with them.
The point at our level we're teaching is it's not the guy with the puck, it's the guy without the puck that makes that pass happen.
Well, you can't make a pass unless someone gets open, right?
That's right. That's right.
There's a really interesting, I just want to mention that Bob Murdoch used to play with us. And when he coached in the NHL, he had one stat, and I think it's the most valid stat there is. And we used it at the University of Calgary men's too, is if your team, every time you touch the puck, you either make a play or gain a zone if there's no play. And if your team's at about 65%, the game will be close. 70%, you're going to win by a lot. 60%, you're going to get beat by a lot.
Explain that again. So every time you get the puck,
you either have to make a play or gain a zone. So basically, it's a puck management stat, right? And he said that was the only stat he paid attention to when he coached Winnipeg and San Jose and all these teams. And he said it's so valid. And then you can analyze your players to say, of course, defensive have to be a higher rate on their, because they're last guy. But he said it's the most accurate stat there is. And even to watch if a player can play, if they're a play ender, I mean, they're not helping you very much, right? So you keep that stat and you can see how effective a player is. And at university, there we have this one guy that was an engineer that came and he developed a computer program. He'd do it during the game and then have the stats between periods. It was really good, but it really is. You got to get someone that knows about hockey to do it, but it's really good.
That's interesting. We pay a ton of money for all this software and analytics. So we have like two different programs we're using. I don't know if completed passes is an algorithm, but I can recommend it. There's no reason we can't. It's all AI generated, so they can do it, But
they can. Yeah, they can do anything. We get that in stat. We get all kinds of stats from it. But I get someone to do it during the game on a big coaching board.
Yeah, just follow it. Yeah.
And they put every time we get the passes, they keep track for the whole game. And then the shots, they put the number, in the zone where the player shot from and a circle of whatever. But the passes, he keeps the stats right down the middle in the neutral zone.
Yeah.
And throughout the game, and you can see, I mean, I think last game there's a couple of players had 18 passes completed and a couple had 2.
Wow.
So you can
see who's in the game and who's not.
Yeah, usually the defense has a lot more, and then if you're on the power play, you can get a little.
Right, because those guys are getting touches and advancing the play. Yeah.
Just wanted to mention, at the end of every period, that person takes a picture and sends it to Tom. And Tom only has 5 minutes between periods, but if you have more time, that picture gives you data, which I'm sure you get data, lots of analytics. Probably
we get
too
floods.
much information that you have to filter to see what you're going to really use to advantage. So something Dave King did years ago with the national team, He was brilliant on the bench. He kept track of chances for and against. And he wrote down the numbers of the players that were on the ice for the chances for and against. And Mark Crawford developed a program on that when he was coaching at Vancouver. And to me, the categories of chances for and against, there's direct attack and there's offensive zone play, there's face-offs, there's special teams. He had over 5 categories. And if you get that information between periods, you got a flag of what you have to pay attention to or take advantage of for the other. So I've heard of nobody ever doing that between periods. When I mentor coaches and do high performance and develop an evaluation of coaches here, they just are going to go in and tell the players what they need to do better, and out they go. They don't gather enough information to make decisions to communicate between periods to benefit from it. So just thought I'd throw that in there. But, having Tom work with these young girls doing those kind of things, I can see the payoff with all of the girls, because everything he's done, I pass on to all the other coaches, and they're playing with one another's drills.
Right.
And your 3-on-2 drill, I'm going to regress it to simplify it. I think 3-on-2 below the ringette line, nothing else, just 3-on-2 below the ringette line. On 2D, free pucks, puck leaves the zone, you place another one. Players interchange position, they battle, compete, and like in Europe, and you played there, I don't think they practice even numbered very often. I felt they prize the pass and they give you the offensive advantage. The ice is bigger, and so they get so good at possessing the puck and making plays. But what happens at our level growing up, they don't know how to get open and be first on the puck because they interchange positions. They're getting away from, I'm a winger, I'm a center in North-South hockey, and they're starting to interchange. And that game, 3-on-2, it's just a game. They figure it out, and they battle, they compete, and they have to support the play. I think it's a money in the bank drill at any level. And I think simple is good. And that's one of those things that low zone offense is, they got to make quick decisions, quick passes. And like Tarasov said years ago, hockey's a little bit more about, it's not so much a speed of hand and foot, it's more about the speed of the mind. So Tom uses the word transition. I think that's what Tom's that's the game within the game. I refer to it when I worked with the national women's team and wrote a curriculum for them. I just felt that's where you're going to win or lose the game. You've got a spatial and a time advantage for a second, and if you take advantage of it, it's gonna pay. Peter, we've been throwing these drills around. You shared one last week. Can you think back to your college days when you did drills and stuff that worked for you?
I think Mike kind of alluded to it a little bit. Back when, and this goes back to, it was late 90s, early 2000s, the whole idea for me when we create drills is, and we might have touched on this a little bit in the past, is it's not that I want the drill to look pretty. I think coaches get wrapped up in the drill has to look the right way. And as opposed to a good drill, there's probably a fair amount of failure in it, especially if it's a new drill. So the players are learning the different aspects of what they can do, puck support, being able to be in a right position, find soft areas, those types of things. So all the drills that we did, I mean, they might start out as maybe it's like at the youth level. One of the drills that I really enjoy is it's just super simple. It's a 3-on-3, but everyone has to touch the puck before you can take a shot. Really simplistic, sounds like really easy, but typically what happens is there's first pass, second pass, third pass gets intercepted. Now you go back to zero. So you have to complete 3 passes actually in a row before you shoot the puck. And then you can begin to see the kids start to think it out a little bit. Like, I better get over here, maybe a little bit closer, maybe put my body in between the defender and my teammates so I can actually connect the pass, because I want to be able to shoot the puck. That's what they all love to do, especially when you're playing with the kids, the younger kids. So anywhere where you can put them in a position where they have to think and become creative on their own, because it's not right. Like it's not football. Football is, we draw it up, we create an actual hole, and that is essentially the only place the running back can go. Once they get through the hole, then they can be creative and try to dodge players. So hockey is just so much more fluid, and at some points, right, very chaotic with that puck bouncing and that kind of thing. That anything we set up, anything we do, so that the players have to think, they have to use that hockey IQ, which years ago they said you couldn't teach IQ. You either had it or you didn't, which I think is a real fallacy. I think you can absolutely teach your players how to think in that IQ. So kind of long-winded answer to your question, but any drills that make them think, make them better players, and getting them involved. And anytime you make your player part of the solution, that helps with their self-esteem. So there's nothing but positives, I think.
Mike, I'm just thinking about drills. I have 2 categories: deliberate, which is flow, pass here, pass there, shoot here, predictable, no thinking, mundane, but popular. They flow, they look good, they're flying. Back in your day, playing, was that the case?
I think so. Yeah. I think you're exactly right. I think Pete said it too. It's exactly right. Like, we still all know the Canada Cup drill, don't we? We all run it, right? 2 guys swinging, everybody's swinging everywhere. Puck moving. It looks beautiful, Pete, right? But what's it really accomplishing? I think USA Hockey refers to those as canned drills. So it's the opposite of what we want to do with our time on the ice. So we want our guys thinking and always getting to solutions. That's kind of the language we use here a lot, is solve the problem. Hockey, I always say hockey's a math problem. All over the ice, it's a math problem. So solve it.
Yeah, math and geometry.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
In relation to deliberate practice, at the U13 level, I think they have to practice some deliberate skills, and they have to practice deliberate passing, patterns for breakouts, generally speaking. But it's most important that they practice it in a realistic, competitive environment and not wait for the weekend games to do it. So I think the ratio of deliberate practice, and I'm not sure what Tom does, he has a couple of drill sequences that cover every tactical skill you can imagine, shooting and getting the goalie warmed up. But the majority of his practice, I would say at least 75%, is random. Decision making's involved. There are constraints. There are rules requiring them to think. And
Yeah.
I don't know what degree, when you started coaching, how much it's changed. How much has it changed, Mike, at your level?
Yeah. So I think much like Tom, I played in the Swedish Elite League for a year and a half or so, or 2 years. And my favorite part of that was watching the youth hockey practices. We'd practice in the morning, and I couldn't wait till 3 o'clock or 2:30 rolled around, and the youth hockey teams would come out, and I'd steal their practices, and I'd go home in the summer and I'd work with Peter, and we'd do camps and clinics and things. And So I was on the cusp of it, and I've been a huge advocate for that. Whereas, Hockey Canada and USA Hockey wasn't. We were ahead of it. Peter and I were ahead of it on a lot of things. So I think it's more come around to the way I was taught while I was in Sweden. So it's changed for the better, but like I was always, since I got into coaching, I was always a part of that. Even as a player, I just wanted more decisions, more of that. That's how I thought the game and played the game. You put rules in a game, and I'll try to find ways to break those rules or work around those rules, and that's what we want our kids doing. For us, we'll do 10% of our practice will be that canned drill, that flow, only because they're coming down the hill from 3 hours of classes, and they need to warm their brains up too. So we won't overwhelm them right away, but we're 90% all making decisions and having to play the game.
Decisions about what you're going to do next practice usually come from the results and the games on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll ask you first, Mike. You played games last weekend?
Yeah.
And your practices this week, how do they reflect your preparation?
Well, that's a timely question, Wally. Like, we try not to be reactive, right? We think our process is great, so we stick to what we do, and we have a plan for the whole season. But our special teams are terrible right now. They're horrible, and I say it often. You can win games with a bad power play, but you can't win games with a bad penalty kill. And our penalty kill is at 60% right now after 6 games. So we're losing hockey games because of it. So we've shifted this week and we're a little reactionary, but we're very PK focused with every single thing we're doing and teaching our guys habits and lanes and details. So normally I would say we're not reactive from the weekend, Wally, but this one we are a little bit.
I think I like that point is too often coaches worry about the other team and what they're doing, and they focus on that, and it takes away from the mantra of your own team.
Right.
The identity that you're working towards. But I know that we've got ideas up here working on power play and penalty kill. I'm a stickler on defensive zone play and penalty kill. Yeah. And I think I've got degrees of expertise in that area because working with Dave King, playing against the Soviets back in the day, working with college players, we had to learn how to play without the puck. Our defensive cover was great. 5-on-5, we could play the Soviets.
Yeah.
Sorry, penalty kill. We couldn't.
Yeah, they were pretty good, huh?
They were pretty good. And when you went over there, the skill level.
Yeah.
And we were still in the bang and crash and intimidate era.
Yeah.
And it was embarrassing when I went over with Allen Cup teams to play in the Star Cup or the Ahern Cup.
Right.
It was embarrassing how we played.
Yeah.
And I think we're coming a long way, and we're making great progress. And the number of players that are playing in the NHL now from Europe, it's just amazing. But the NHL game is the game to watch and learn from, because they're like yourself, full time, adapting, changing, inventing to make themselves better. And my philosophy is for the coaches and players, your job is to make the other team better and the other coach better and the other players better. It's not to win. If that is the underlying goal, but it becomes a distracting goal when you overreact to it and tighten the stick because of it.
Right.
So,
right.
Tom, you have started the season well with a great tournament win against some really good teams, but then your first 2 league games, you had some couldn't score goals. Played
Yeah,
well.
well, we scored one game, but we gave our goalie really struggled. But we played probably our best game, that one you saw.
Yeah.
But like the first period, we tried 15-5 and didn't score. And usually we can score pretty good, but that happens during the season. I just want to say about watching the practices, the pro stuff right now. The thing I see more than I've ever seen before is when they do a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2, the players finish the play. So if the play, the puck is still even behind the goal, between the dots or whatever, they don't blow the whistle for another. And a lot of times they have another one going the other way. And they play out the 3-on-2 or the 2-on-1 or the 2-on-2. Where before, it was just you did a drill and you shot and nobody went for the rebound. And I really have seen this year, especially. Even the junior team was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And finishing the play out and not just worried about, the flow of the practice.
Right.
So,
Tom, what are you doing this week at practice? Relative.
well, our last practice was really a specialty team one.
Yeah.
We worked on, we always do skills at the start. And we worked on the power. We switched our power play. It's kids hockey, so everybody's got to get a turn. So we rotated our power play, and we got 2 power play units. One does a 1-3-1, and one is doing an overload. And my son does that, and I was at the other end going over the penalty kill because I had new penalty killers there. And then we do this thing I saw the Flames do about 4 or 5 years ago. It's terrific drill for that. Is at one end, so they're both in colors, right? So the whites would be at one end, 5 of them. They just go through 1 or 2 options. It starts with the face-off circle. They do 1 or 2 options. Then they fire the puck down for a breakout. And as soon as the puck crosses the red line, the penalty killers jump out. And they're playing full 5-on-4 or whatever situation. You could even do it 5-on-5. Whatever situation, then they play, for about 45 seconds or so, and they play out the penalty kill. And then when they're done, then the blacks go out and they do the same thing. And everybody gets a chance, and it's live.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the best things I've come across.
Mm-hmm.
Is that little sequence.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the other sequence, like my son had him after he showed the power play, is the extra players. It's a Bob Johnson thing Wally saw. So the power play is there, but for about 10 seconds, you send one penalty killer in that goes full bore for about 10 seconds, and you tweet a little light tweet on the whistle. New player goes in. The other player doesn't leave until that player's out. And that, and then they're walking through, but they have pressure. And if they don't think and look, they give the puck away. And that's a good little sequence too.
I saw that Bob Johnson did it at a coaching clinic. And of course, their power play was get the puck to Lanny McDonald on the off wing for the one-timer. And I find if you're talking about penalty kill, Dave King had teaching points. And stop and start, straight line skating, lead with the stick, swivel the head, busy stick. And the stop and start, not the curling, is one of the biggest things of all. And I actually teep inside edge control, snow plows, right foot, left, and front foot stops and T starts. Defensive tactical skating is critical. If you don't do it, if you do stops and starts, the first thing I noticed when the Flames did it years ago, they stopped 8 players, stopped on the favorite side. Well, you got a problem. You're going to have a problem. Your penalty kill. And why did they do that? Because it's a habit. If you don't pay attention to the habit of stopping on both sides, and the phase for penalty killing is don't ever stop, crossover, start. It's conditioning. There's no place for it in the game. You've overskated. So the front foot stop and the T start, rotating your head and shoulders as you're stopping to get the center of gravity going the way you want to go. It's critical. It's very fundamental. When we played the Soviets, my job was to teach defensive tactical skills in skating. And I was a forward, but I became that person playing on big ice. And knowing how to skate without the puck, face the puck, always face it, how to use your stick, but being able to stop and start straight line skate. And one thing that Tim Bothwell added, he coached you in Hartford, I think, I don't know. But anyway, he had a thing called rodeo on a free puck. If there was a free puck, you went for 8 seconds, everybody, all out pressure. And that worked for him.
I love that.
Yeah. And Tom, at your level, you pressure all the time, right?
I bet.
Yeah, well, only really highly skilled players can make plays if they're under pressure. The other ones, it's like a hand grenade with a pin out. So you have to get them to throw the puck away. But still, you have to have good habits.
Tom, are you doing anything this week because of the game last week that you gleaned from what you needed to work on?
Well, I always look at what we're doing well, and and that'll be maybe these things don't change, but that's what you emphasize when you're coaching.
Yeah.
Like we have almost half our team is first year, and they're small, and a couple of them, they take the pass and they kind of push forward as they take it, so they end up pushing it to the defenseman instead of making sure they take the pass. So, that's something that we've improved a lot, but it's still got to be improved. I'll tell you, I saw one of the biggest hits I've ever seen in women's hockey and girls hockey on our last game. We got a lot of these girls, they don't even weigh 100 pounds, eh? So this girl goes behind their net with the puck, and a girl that probably weighed her by 50 pounds just hit her a Scott Stevens straight on. She bounced back about 3 yards, whacked her head.
Oh no.
None of the referees saw it. She had the puck. I don't know how you don't see it. But anyway, she's out with a concussion now. But it was one of the biggest hits I've ever seen.
Wow.
She just bounced. But
hey, gentlemen, I have to run. I have a noon power play practice. But can I be a part of this? Even if just to listen. I love this. It's good therapy.
Every Thursday, 8:30 Calgary time.
Love it. That's my favorite
email,
time.
Mike?
Yeah, M Harder.
Email address?
Yeah, mharder@colgate.edu. I can send it to you.
Harder, DER?
Yeah, that's right.
At Colgate?
Yeah.
Colgate what?
.edu. I just sent it in the chat.
Okay, because I can send that. Okay, great.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thanks for coming
on. Good practice.
I love it. Love this. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Charging my batteries here.
Real good. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Peter, I'm glad he came on. It was nice to have a guy at that level, and then to be able to hear Tom talk about, and you and I, and about the lower levels and what we have to do.
Yeah, and he's pretty modest fellow too. I mean, he was a Hobie Baker finalist.
Yeah.
He also is, I think, to this day, the leading scorer, point getter in the history of Colgate. So he's got some credentials, and I think that's in our sport what has made a lot of. I think it's a sign of a lot of really good people. Like the best players, the best people, I think, are the most humble.
Yeah.
It
sounds like if he was playing today, he'd be playing in the dub, in the big league.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, one of the things too I'm excited about today is, so I've got my my little grandson's practice. I'm going to get a little piece of that in, but then one of the things the colleges do around here, it's it's a recruiting tool that they use. Is they one of the local leagues is called the EHL, and what they do is they put together an all-star team, and each year they'll play 4 or 5 colleges and universities. So there's in an exhibition game. So that's happening tonight. So I'm looking forward to watching those players to see again as we move here. Like is junior hockey also evolving? Like we were talking about. Like what do those players like? These are supposed to be the best players, right? All the all-stars. What do they look like? Like what are their habits? And how does that look like it will translate or does translate to the NCAA level? Because, they'll be playing an NCAA team.
Peter, I don't know if they do it anymore, Tom, but a few years ago, the University of Alberta and University of Calgary created an all-star team to play the Flames farm team. And they competed with them very well. In fact, I thought they outplayed them more often than not. And
I
these
coached
were
a game against the Flames farm team with UFC against Salt Lake City, and we beat them 3-2.
Yeah.
Willie wanted to watch from the stands, so I ran the bench.
And we've seen that too. This EHL All-Star team has beat, some NCAA teams in the past. Typically what hurts them is the fact that they're all 20-year-olds and, they are playing against 24-year-olds. So the physical piece sometimes is a bit of a detriment, but they've also done well. So I'm really curious to see what it looks like tonight.
Well, I found that junior, when Canada's national junior team, they would play college teams. And it might be a college all-star team from the East or a college all-star team from the West. And I watch games where the junior teams absolutely dominated, and I've watched games where they were outplayed. There are sometimes you get these generational players that they just control the puck, control the play. And it was really interesting to, over the many years, to observe that. But raw talent, boy, it's hard to come by. Sounds like Mike was that kind of a guy. He could play the game and see the ice and score goals. And Tom, the Flames had a guest last night. Who's the Russian player from New Jersey that's injured? Sergachev, the leading scorer last year?
I'm not sure.
Anyway, he came to practice and gave out signed autographs and gave out hats to the girls, and 26 years old. And it was really nice to have him visit. And modest guy, but if they're playing this well without their leading scorer, I think he can score. He had a heck of a year last year.
For Mike's email address, was there a dot or anything? Or is just Mike Harder, Harder?
M Harder, yep.
Yeah, okay.
No, like no M dot, just M Harder, yep.
Yeah, okay. Because I'm sending him that raw video that I talked about, and then the folders with all of those PDFs in it.
Yeah, he'll appreciate that for sure.
Peter, what's your schedule today? You got one game to go to, or a couple?
Practice. So it'll be I'm gonna go watch my little grandson at the mites, 7-year-olds. Gonna go watch, I'll catch maybe half of his practice. And then I'm gonna go to that all-star game tonight. That's at 8:00. So I'll be watching, excuse me, I'll be watching that.
No.
We'll see. I'm curious, Wally, to see, and Tom, what the goaltenders look like, right? Because it's a good opportunity to see. Even though they're close to that age of going to college or university, there's a difference between the way that 20-year-old is shooting the puck and the 24-year-old shooting the puck. So I'm curious to see how those goaltenders, what that looks like from their standpoint, right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's a huge difference to them.
Now,
Yeah. So we'll see what that looks like.
the All-Star team, what would be the age range of it?
Well, what they typically do is because they use it as a recruiting tool, it'll typically be mainly 20-year-olds with maybe an occasional 19-year-old. It'll be the guys that are getting ready to age out, so they get maybe a little extra look in front of the colleges, because it's open. All the local universities and colleges will send somebody to check it out and see what they look like. So it'll be the oldest you could be pretty much as a junior player.
Is there anybody heard anything about the NCAA major junior rule eligibility, and has anything come down on that regard?
I think it passed through. You mean like with the juniors, the major junior players being eligible?
Yes.
I think it did.
Yeah, I think it passed. That's a done deal. So it's going to be a question of what that actually looks like. And there's so many, right? You could talk for the next 5-6 hours about what you think could happen, what you think will happen with that. There's so many, I think, different potential scenarios to it, and then you have the individual choices that people make. So it's going to be pretty. I think it's going to be pretty interesting. Sit back and watch it, and probably much easier to sit back and watch it than to be a coach trying to navigate it.
Well, they just made that outlaw league, the BC Junior League, withdrew from Hockey Canada, all about that, so they could bring in imports and all this sort of thing. And now it kind of makes it a moot point. Because they wanted their players to get recruited more and all this sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and again, there's a talk about how does that affect junior leagues as you trickle all the way down. I don't know. We'll see. Like I say, there's plenty of thoughts and conjecture, but we'll see what it actually looks like.
I'm hypothesizing here, but I think it's a good thing, because younger players may end up playing at the right age with the right age of players now. And the few exceptional ones might go to college sooner than later. But boy, having a choice is what it's all about. It's freedom of choice, and I think that's what hasn't occurred here. Of course, being a market economy and the idea of being able to make money, it might distract education a little bit, but
Well, yeah, again, I guess you're going to have like where will that go? Will it be that those players are such high end that you work really hard to recruit that player in on their freshman year, and are they gone after their sophomore year? Right? That's potentially for those higher end players. They may not stay at university for 4 years.
Boy, that's definitely true.
Right. So you're gonna again, as a coach now, like you're gonna be pretty busy trying to backfill and using your crystal ball trying to guess who had a great sophomore year, so that player's going to leave, and they don't necessarily tell you before the season starts, coach, I'm going to leave, so you better recruit my spot. Right. It's a spur of the moment thing. They decide to leave, and now as a coach, you're scrambling a bit, trying to fill in those spots. So I think that's one thing. I don't know how many people have talked about that, but that's certainly going to be a reality, that they're coaches are going to be facing at the Division I level.
In Canada, Western Canada, we have a Bantam draft. Are you familiar with that, Peter?
Yeah. Yep.
And in Ontario, they don't draft until they're in minor midget a year later. And I think that's much healthier, much better for the game. Kids don't get distracted at that youngest age. At Bantam, they're already playing to be drafted, and some of them will get accelerated to major. But I just wish we had a consistency across the country. I like restricting that draft age to being 16 rather than 15, or 15 rather than 14.
Right.
I
And
think Alberta, the Western League's a year younger than down east.
right. And I think the problem with that too, Wally, with the distraction piece is, the kid gets drafted as a Bantam. It's a heck of a lot of development that maybe does or doesn't happen in between that and when it's actually time to play for that team. And, you still may be on the outside looking in. Like, it's not a guarantee that you're gonna go there and that's where you're gonna play. Just like any draft, right?
Well, my grandson got drafted by Regina. And then he just about lost his bicep with a skate cut. Needed microsurgery. It kind of wiped out that season. And I don't think they thought he was going to recover, and they dropped him. And he played in the Saskatchewan junior after.
Yeah. So like you don't really know. So, and that's a tough thing at that age, to, have that kid have the maturity to deal with the fact that this is great. However, it doesn't mean that's where you're going to be. And then when in some cases when that happens and it's not where you are, what does that do to that kid's psyche? And as far as their career, does it? Certain kids, I'm sure, it wrecks their career, and that's where it ends for them, because they can't mentally recoup from the fact that, well, I was drafted. I don't understand.
Well, I think the other thing is someone owns your rights, and your options are limited. Like Terry Johnson, he gave me a ride home last night. And he played in the NHL and all this. And he finished his junior, played 1 year at university. He didn't like only playing like 30 games. So he sat down with Dave King and looked at all the NHL teams. And they looked at, like, he's a big defensive defenseman. And who needs that? And so Quebec was skilled but small, and he went there, and that's where he got his foot in the door. And he ended up in St. Louis and Calgary and Toronto and all this. But if he was drafted and owned by some team that had his kind of a player, right, he might have never got the chance.
Yeah, exactly.
So unless you're number 1 or 2 round, almost, probably better not to get drafted.
Right. I mean, it's certainly such a status thing. And we see it here too. Back when I was coaching in prep school, you get that verbal commitment, but until you sign that at age 18, it's just a verbal commitment. I mean, like you could have an injury, you could have just a poor year, and that school might have a conversation with you. We know we committed you, but you might want to look at some other options. And then that's pretty devastating to a 16, 17-year-old who thought they had their life on track and knew what they were going to be doing, where they were going to be going.
Yeah, for sure.
Peter, did you play high school hockey?
No, I didn't really play anything organized. I mean, I played, but nothing that was really organized. There wasn't a ton of that around for me when I was that age. Plus, expense-wise, 4 kids, again, like I've talked about, my dad working, 2 jobs. It was certainly considered a luxury.
What is the playing at high school opportunity to go your way?
Like
Are there
now it's pretty wide open. There's actually 3 different divisions, a 1, 2, and a 3, based on, I think, initially your size of your school and the amount of athletes you have. And then if you win, like one of the local schools won the Division 3 championship, so they are automatically bumped up to Division 2. So if you win, you're bumped up a division. So the local high school hockey is solid hockey, but the path to NCAA here is either a move to junior hockey at some level or prep school at some level. And if you're at prep school and you're committed, you'll generally go out west to one of the hockey leagues out there. And if you're in high school, you'll generally go to one of the eastern type levels of junior hockey that are out there, and those kids will play mainly Division 3.
Division 3? Are there any free rides at Division 3?
No, I mean there's academic money out there. Like with me, with curious, Division 2 athletics has athletic scholarship money, except in men's ice hockey. It's the only one that there's 2 things that are peculiar to Division 2. There's no athletic financial aid, and there's also no national championship for Division 2 hockey. What happened was years ago, many of the Division 2 schools elevated their programs to Division 1. So was left with a small amount. I mean, in the East here right now, there's 6 Division 2 men's hockey programs. So it's a pretty small amount. And one of the reasons that they never got scholarships was when they initially got rid of the national championship piece and said, well, we need games, Division 3, will you play us? This is going way back. It's my understanding. I don't know if it's folklore or actual truth, but it makes sense. The Division 3 school says we'll play you, but if you're giving scholarship money, that's an unfair advantage. So it doesn't make sense to play you. So somewhere in there, Division 2 men's ice hockey made the conceded that, well, we won't give scholarship money to hockey.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that's at. So I'll tell you what, it's a very interesting and in some ways difficult, challenging, but I always found it also refreshing and fun in some ways. When you could get a kid to come to your school because they actually believed in you, they believed in your program, what you were doing. The school fit them as an individual, fit them for their majors. To me, that was always the extra challenge of trying to recruit at that level. But I always enjoyed a challenge, so for me it was no issue.
Tom, I have a question. You've coached the state women, which is like college, and then you've also coached university. And my question is, U18AA, where you had great success, would any of those girls, all of them, 90%, be capable of playing at a college like St. Nate, Olds College?
Well, some did. You've got, you end up with really good players that should have been on the AAA and they didn't get in the AAA for various reasons, or they really improved as the year went on. And so some of them can, but not overall, right?
Yeah.
It's usually the AAA or the sports schools
players that make that higher, but there's always and maybe they're a late developer. They've grown a lot.
Yeah.
But generally 90% of them won't play college.
I think, and I could be wrong, quite a few girls from Girls Hockey Calgary are going to Division III schools in the States.
Yeah.
And I think
That's
part
been
of
the case for a long time.
Yeah, but it's affordability, I believe, is, the players you have, the parents can afford to send them there. That's why I asked Peter the question about free rides. Are there scholarships? And
Yeah, and it's different with the women. The women are actually different. So the university, like I say, it's a Division II school, but the women's program is elevating to Division I. So they do have money to give to the women. And I want to look it up because I think there are some girls from Calgary either that were on the team or are on the team now.
Yeah, there's a lot that have gone, and the thing about, and it's kind of really too bad, but you don't play elite hockey in Calgary unless you have money. It just like that, I'm coaching at 13, 14-year-old girls. Right off the hop, parents got to come up with $4,500. That's pays for the league buses and all this kind of stuff, and the referees and everything. And they've already had a $1,500 cash call. I've got 3 daughters, and one daughter's son went through all that hockey, but I've got 2 daughters. No way in God's green earth could they pay for even a hockey stick. Like I've got to lend them money sometime to buy food at the end of the month. So the expense just eliminates some people from even playing the game at high levels.
No, it is. And yeah, I'm looking here at the roster now, Tom, and there's a girl, Hallie Lawrence. She's from Calgary, who transferred over from Minot State. There's another girl, Maddie Noonan, who's a junior, who is from Calgary. So that's 2 at least. Another girl, Angeline Pitter, who is from Calgary. So it looks like they have three girls on their team from Calgary.
Yeah, there's a huge percentage of the girls that play, at the AAA, or even some of the AA girls that go play Division III. I had one girl, Tess Adams, and she was a top scorer in Division III and helped coach a team for a while.
Yeah.
And
Well, these girls are on
10
the so
years
they're
ago.
on they're on that women's team. So that's a Division I team. So they're I don't know what they're getting, but I'm guessing they're potentially getting some measure of scholarship money.
Yeah, and quite a few get their scholarships too.
But it's that's where it's going to get hard. I think I did the math a while back, few years now, more than that, I guess, that on the men's side, there were typically around, with all the junior leagues, there were about 3,000 players that aged out every year.
Yeah.
Which at the time, that would be, I think it was with the numbers of NCAA schools out there to play NCAA hockey, every team would have to take 15 or 16 new players every year, which obviously doesn't happen. So there's a lot of players that are capable that just don't get the opportunity just because it's a numbers game.
Well, it's
And
the same thing with the major juniors being eligible.
well, with
There's
that
only so many spots,
right? I mean, your club hockey teams potentially get a lot better because teams are gonna run out of space, right?
Yeah. I talked to the University of Calgary coach. Well, I talked to all the coaches last night, and he can't field a team right now, like a full team. They're playing with 3 lines and 4 or 5D. He's got 7 injuries. I mentioned my grandson's going to get paid for senior hockey. Kindersley, I said, if you need someone, he's a student at UC because he went to a college on Vancouver Island last year and played, but he didn't want to go back there. And yeah, they lost 2 to Mount Royal last weekend, and he can't, he's short of players, even for practice. It doesn't make for. He told me like they can get pro players. Right? He said, going to see if he can get some pro players after Christmas or something.
And that's hard because there's not a lot of schools that have JV programs, so to speak. Some will have the club hockey teams, but
Yeah,
might be a kid here and there that you could pull up for a practice, but not so much.
yeah, and you have to be a student. We had that when my last year at SAIT. It was after the COVID year. A lot of the players came. The rinks were closed. They hadn't trained, and I had 7 or 8 injuries, and I know we played one game with 13 against and their coach was getting on his high horses. This shouldn't be allowed. So few players, blah blah blah. What can you do? If you only got 13 skaters, you only got 13 skaters.
Well, and the other thing with that too, it shouldn't be allowed. Aren't you happier that your team is playing a game rather than we'll just forfeit and stay home?
You know what I think really bothered them? We beat them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you had the right 13.
That's the deal. Is if you win. But yeah, so they've had, and some of them are bad injuries. One of the kids that got a scholarship last night, he was in a sling and he's gone for like 2 months or something.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, right? A step in a rut, a hit, twist the wrong way, and
yeah,
not good.
Tom, at your level, like U13, they had some injuries. Team White played, and they brought up a girl from community, a real small D, and they ended up winning the game. But she was on for 2 of the goals against, and sort of like you experienced before, the affiliates can play games, but the community kids aren't ready to go up and compete. So I talked to the coaches last night about managing the bench, and when there's a face-off in the other end, maybe you can get them out there and give them a chance to play situations. But when you do have an injury, sometimes you can play your better players more and you can manage your bench.
Well, we've got 2 injuries right now. We just got named our affiliates. A couple came to practice. They don't know really what we're doing. And I don't know. I hate to take a player from a team because they're usually their better players, eh?
Yeah.
And they miss their own game. So we're going to Edmonton this weekend. And last week we were too short as well. Like Brooke is back, but that girl that got really hit, she's got a concussion now.
Yeah.
So we've got, we have 3 lines and 1 extra forward. They're all forwards.
Would you bring a girl? Do you have affiliates from U13 that can practice with you?
I haven't even seen they just were calling about the list, but
okay.
And it's a big jump. Even our first year girls are so much smaller than the second year girls.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They'd have to be, pretty. It's also they're just so outsized.
But you mentioned last year you brought up Brooke, who played in community versus affiliates. And I guess what GHC is trying to do is give the affiliates a chance to practice.
Oh yeah, I had them practice. I like 20 at practice because you can do everything.
Yeah.
But they just named who they are because, she wasn't a community. She was a girls hockey Calgary girl in that other division.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just coming back from injury because she got a concussion.
Yeah.
One of those collisions where both players are looking at the puck, but one's not going with the flow.
Yeah.
And they just collided at the blue line and both went flying. So,
Well, look, guys, I've got to get a blood test. I've got to see my cardiologist next week. So, Peter, thanks for getting Mike, Coach Harder on. It was really good to have him, and I hope he joins us again. And if we do get another college coach on, I think we'll talk about drills and some of the things they're doing. And I think verbalizing them is really good.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it was great for him too. He loves it, and like he loves the game. I think too. I think his grandfather ran a rink, so I think he was back when he was a kid. He was the rink rat too. You know, always sneaking in and at the odd hours and skating. So hopefully he'll be back around again too, depending on what his schedule allows, of course.
Yeah.
yeah, he was really good. Yeah, I got to prepare my practice. Cassie will be on the ice with us tonight. And go head to
Okay.
Edmonton on the weekend.
All right. Well, you fellas take care. It's good to see you as ever.
Hey, good seeing you,
Take care,
Peter.
guys.
Ollie.
Have a good weekend.
Too.
Okay, bye-bye.